Turning now to the continuing debate over how to tackle racism in America. Our next guest is calling on white Americans to address the subtle ways in which she says they cause racial harm every day. Robin DiAngelo's 2018 book, White Fragility, catapulted to the top of the New York Times bestsellers list amid the calls for social justice after the death of George Floyd. Her new book is Nice Racism: How Progressive White People Perpetuate Racial Harm. It argues well-meaning people can fuel racism. Robin DiAngelo joins us now for an interview you're seeing first on CBS This Morning. Robin, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
First of all, what exactly is nice racism?
Because those two words don't
nice
go together,
racism
Robin. Those two words, nice and racism, do not go together.
Well, if it grabs your attention, that's a good thing. We need to grab one another's attention and start having a difficult conversation, or continue having that conversation. But the explicit acts of racism are fairly recognizable, epithets and slurs. But there are many more subtle manifestations. And because they're more subtle, they're more insidious. They're often perpetrated by well-meaning people who are not aware that they are causing harm and are in denial about that.
Robin, you say in the book that you've been guilty of this yourself, that you've made your own missteps. What were you referring to?
Oh, well, absolutely. I'm well aware that I have perpetrated racial harm across my life. And I'm also well aware that not one moment of that was intentional or conscious, but it still caused harm. And an example I opened the book with is back when I was in college, and I'm a non-traditional student, so I was in my 30s at this point in my life. My partner at the time and I were visiting another city, and there were some friends of hers she wanted to look up. So we made plans to meet this couple at a restaurant. I had never met them before. And when we got to the restaurant, I saw that they were both Black. And at that point in my life, I didn't know any Black people. I was rarely ever around Black people. And I was excited. I wanted to immediately establish that I was not racist. So how did I do that? I proceeded to regale them all night long with stories about how racist my family was. I shared every joke, every comment, followed by, "Can you believe they said that?" Thinking that what I was demonstrating was that I recognized those things as racist, and I would never say those things.
Yeah, so that made you better than your family. Yeah, that made you better than your family. Yeah.
Yes. But I was subjecting this couple all night long to all those comments. And I would not have brought the conversation to race if they had not been Black. So I was also objectifying them. And I wasn't paying any attention to their signals as they grew more and more uncomfortable. And maybe the last point to pull from that example is my partner, while she wasn't participating in those comments, she also wasn't interrupting them. And so she contributed to allowing that to happen. And that's a great example. My intentions were to show I wasn't racist, but the impact of my behavior was racism.
Yeah, listen, Robin, when I read that, I sort of laughed, but I was also cringing for you, because I've been in a situation with white people, and they'll pull out pictures of, look at my brother-in-law, look at my daughter-in-law, look at the things that I've done. And I'm thinking, now, why are you showing me this? Or I have a friend who's sick, and it turns out she's Black, and they just wanted me to know about it. So I really related to what you were saying. But what was fascinating to me is here you were in your 30s, you had had very little contact with Black people, and you said 75% of whites in this country have little or no contact with Black people in their lives. I thought that was so fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's based on a survey by the Public Religion Research Institute. And I think it's pretty clear in most white people's lives. Most white people live segregated lives. And are not taught to feel any sense of loss about that. And if we're being honest, in large part, we measure the value of space, of neighborhoods, of schools by the absence of Black people.
But Robin, what do you say to people, because I want to get this point, when you say there's Robin trying to make white people feel guilty again, what is your response to that?
I think that's a willful misreading of my work. I'm not interested in guilt. It serves no good purpose. I'm clear that I have participated and perpetuated racism in my life. I don't feel guilty about that. I didn't choose to be conditioned in a society in which racism is the bedrock. And the antidote to guilt is reparative action, responsibility. I didn't choose my conditioning, but I am responsible for the outcome of it. And when you change your understanding of what racism is, when you move past this idea that it's an either or proposition, either good people or bad people, guilt becomes moot.
Yeah, guilt is not a particularly productive emotion either.
Right.
Robin DiAngelo, thank you very much for being with us. The book Nice Racism goes on sale tomorrow.